And that album that Reggie was talking about was called appropriately The Beginning in 1979. And although it didn't do that great on the charts, I'm sure it must have been a thrill when you saw that in record stores or heard it at all. I actually remember hearing Make It Last back then, and I thought it was a great track, but you know, I guess maybe radio didn't get behind it enough. But what was it like when you first you know, saw it in the stores and heard it on the radio?
It was incredible. And I mean, we really got a first-class treatment on that first album too. Dick Griffey said, "Who you want to produce the album?" You know, we didn't really know what a producer was. And doing a little research, and then we knew we wanted to be jazzy and funky, and Earth, Wind and Fire was our idols, and we wanted to get into that level of musicality and even musicianship as well. So we hired Harvey Mason to produce that album, and Harvey brought with him some of the greatest session musicians and arrangers that Los Angeles had to offer, because he was the man. And that was a great experience right there to meet and to work with. And you know, we used live strings and the whole thing. You know, on this album, there was no corners cut. We overdid it. And when we finished the album, Dick Griffey once again says, "It's good. It's got some great music on it, but I need a single. What's the single?" And you know, we were definitely trying to make a musical mark rather than a single mark. we thought we were making singles. We had a lot to learn. So Dick said, "I want you guys to work with this young guy, Leon Sylvers. I think you like working with him. You can come up with a hit." And you know, what do you think? We're like, well, we'll give it a shot. We'll try anything. So he said, "Well, let me hear some things that you guys are working on." So we go back to Rich's house, and once again, the pots and pans come in handy, because we cut the demo with pots and pans and just all vocals and no live instruments of Make It Last. And you know, Gant, the bass player, he's singing the bass line, and the guitar players are singing the guitar parts, and you know, we're singing along the horns and imagining how this song will go. And we actually made this cassette demo, just vocals and pots and pans and whatever we could key up. And he says, "Yeah, that's it. That's cool. Let's go cut it." So Leon Sylvers produced Make It Last, and you know, and then you know, it's more what people understand also. In picking a hit single, it's not only the music, it's the timing, it's the record company, it's the money spent, it's being in the right place, it's what's out at that time. Where is music at that time? You know, how does it fit? What's the slang word? What's the gimmick? You know, there's all these factors. So that song, being a nice song, didn't knock the roof off. And I think we were in between distributors. Dick was changing multiple distribution companies, all in the midst of different albums. So those kind of things can have a major effect. You got two different promotion guys going to record company with the same record. Radio's like, whoa. Yeah, that was kind of like how the first three albums went down. A lot of different stuff, a lot of learning on all ends, a lot of settling in. But yeah, so that was Make It Last. And then we moved into the second album, which was Standing Together. And by this time, we wanted to try more songs with Leon as producer. You know, going for that youthful sound and the whole deal.
Yeah, so, you know, it's funny you mentioned Earth, Wind and Fire, because I kind of picked up on that a little bit. You know, the artwork even of that first album was similar to some of the Earth, Wind and Fire vibe, and the large, you know, horn-based funk band approach for Earth, Wind and Fire. But you guys evolved from that.
It was good as Dick Griffey, because we actually hired the same artist that did Earth, Wind and Fire's albums in the beginning. And so it's exactly the same guy. We were Earth, Wind and Fire nuts. I was just hanging out with Ralph Johnson and Bernie White the other night as I was elected into the board of directors for the California Copyright Conference. And the night we were featuring those guys. So I'm telling them all these stories, and they're telling me their stories, and what a treat.
So Reggie, we're at the second album, Staying Together, which, you know, didn't hit like maybe you would have liked it to, but it had definitely some nice tracks. So Staying Together and Tough. were cooking pretty good. You know, so you were building something clearly, but you maybe didn't know exactly what you were building to at that point. How did you feel about, you know, the level of success it was achieving at that time? Were you still excited? Were you a little bit frustrated, a little bit disillusioned? What was your head at?
Yeah, it was starting to get a little, well, you know, going into it, you know, we did a couple of beautiful videos out of that. Tough was still stands today, and in fact, some dancers have reimagined Tough with new choreography. It's YouTube is blowing up, but we knew what we were doing was revolutionary and really good. So that we did the Can't Give You Up, which was a really beautiful ballad. So when it doesn't, you know, it doesn't take over the radio, you still can, as young as we were, we didn't really know how radio really worked. So, you know, we would go by all the stations and meet the guys as we were on our tours, and, you know, ask them, would you play our record? We didn't know the whole system of how everything works. And music was changing too, because you had that period where disco was still kind of lingering around, and that's the last thing we were going to do was disco. So we weren't going to buy into that part of it. So kind of trying to be who we were. We knew we wanted to do funk, but we wanted to be musical. So sometimes you can put too much music into funk, which is what a lot of our early production consists of. And that second album, Leon was the producer up until the end. And, you know, Leon he was teaching me and training me, you know, let me hang out with him all the time, you know, learn how to cut vocals and rhythm tracks, and, you know, live instruments and the whole deal. At the end of the project, Leon was with his own group, Dynasty. They were going to Africa. So he already had a tour set to go to Africa. So Leon left me at the helm of the second album while he went to Africa. So I had to, of course, finish the project and mix all the songs and master all the songs with the great Steve Howes, which was another education within itself. So that whole learning ground, you know, just propelled, and Dick Griffey always had a way of upping it one. So the upping from that one was the third album. Okay, you guys go do it yourself, and that was the Victory album, which we cut 90% of that in Cincinnati, as opposed to Los Angeles, and really, you know, exploring, discovering ourselves, seeing what our strengths are. That's where we'd be in the morning, and Roger Troutman would come in around 5 and stick his head in the door, and he'd say, so y'all still playing that pretty music? Keep playing that pretty music. What he was really telling us was, that ain't funky enough, guys.
He was rousing you, huh?
Yeah, he was rousing. He was more bounce to the ounce. They were killing the game, and we had no real hits. And in fact, we had Bootsy on that album. Yeah, Hotspot. Yeah, Hotspot was definitely going for a single. That was going for it. You know, that was really digging in and trying to make it happen. But still, you know, still learning the production techniques, and still learning what how to get it there. You know, how to make it where it's undeniable. Because the hits where you have to buy the hit, you know, that doesn't last too long. But the hit that comes on and everybody in the room knows it's just a hit and that you have to have it, the promotion man would later say, you guys made my job easy, because they just put it on at the club. When you put Freaky Zone on at the club, it's a wrap. So by that, you know, by the Freaky Zone album, we figured it out.
How did you get Bootsy on that track? Was he just hanging around, or how'd that happen?
No, Bootsy's like, you know, he's like our big brother. So, you know, we do things for. Well, actually, we had written and produced some things for him during that same period. You know, so it was kind of like a trade-off. You know, so that was really just a cool time. But he is the promotion man. He learned from James Brown everything about music business, of how to be a star, how to promote yourself, how to appear in the right places, and all that good stuff. So, you know, he was happy to do it, and he could see where we were going. I mean, there was nothing out there like what we were doing. You know, he wanted to be a part of it, and he loves me and my brother. You know, we just came up. We're just part of the same cloth, the Cincinnati boys.
So Reggie, you're 3 records in, and you're building a following gradually, and you're you know every step of the way. I think you're learning more, you're elevating your game even that much more. But you mentioned Leon Sylvers and Dick Griffey, of course, and those guys. But I mean, that stable at Solar was something special. I mean, they were kind of like a Los Angeles Motowns in a way, with Shalimar and Lakeside you mentioned, and all the people groups they had, and Babyface and Ellie Reed and all that. What was it like being in that Solar environment with those guys? I mean, did you hang out much with them and you absorbed whatever you could?
Yeah, while Lakeside being from Dayton, so there, there was a camaraderie there. The Whispers just super respect. I mean, after we did get our first hit, then we began to produce all those guys as much as possible. The Whisper songs, Climax. That's how that all started out. But within that early stage, I mean, if you could imagine, we're getting ready to record the second album. He was either the first album or the second album, but Dick Griffey comes in the studio and he says, check this song out, because he had a test pressing and he wanted to hear it and test it in the room. He said, check this song, I want you to hear this and I want to test this out. And that song was Second Time Around by Shalimar. And I heard that beautiful production and that Crystal song, and I'm like, that's a hit. It was so incredible. Leon production, with Howard Hewitt's voice and Jeffrey and Jody, just totally amazing. So we had to compete with that, and Lakeside had already had their hits, Fantastic Voyage, and the Whispers, of course, were legends. They had had hits since the freaking 60s and 50s. So you're feeling all that, but you still feel cool because you're at a small company. If you're at Columbia or somewhere that's has got 100 artists, and one day, every day somebody's getting dropped. Here we are, going into a second album, going to a third album, and Griffey's still hanging with us. So after the third album, then that's when it really was like, 3 strikes you're out. It's like, wow, like what are we going to do? We got all the stuff that we've learned over the years. But so we draw a line in the sand. We say, okay, we have to make hits. We have to make hits. Because I went to the period of going to publishing houses and said, "Do you have any good songs?" And they would always give us what you would think would the B or C songs. I'm like, we can actually do better than this. So but we got to go to work, So we began to really, really dig deep and have that attitude that, okay, we're gonna make an album where every song on it is very good, has hit potential. That way we got 8 chances to have a single instead of 1 or 2 singles and 6 or 7 songs. It's like, it's not going to make the album if it can't stand on its own. It's not going down this time. And the highlight, we brought in Pablo Davis, who was to management along with my mother, and Pablo had a lot of experience as a concert promoter, a lot of street value in terms of just being around hit music and knowing what it took and refocusing. So we refocused the whole group to where it was more stations of what has to be done. It was the cooking's over here, the horns over there, the writing's over here, rehearsals were there, exercises going this way, choreographies, everything had a sort of a place that could make it kind of like the Ford, like making a Ford car. And but the real turnaround, our road manager was tight with Quincy Jones. So Quincy was performing in Indianapolis, which was about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So we all go to Indianapolis to see Quincy, and we get in with passes and we get backstage passes. So I'm backstage. I get to talk to Quincy for like 30, 40 minutes one-on-one backstage. And I always say he taught me everything I need to know about production in that particular gathering. And it had nothing to do with a flat 5 chord or triplets or this kind of microphone. It was the psychology of production, which is what it really, really comes down to. So the key factors were, number one, there's no democracy in music, meaning you got a 9-piece band. You cannot have 9 opinions to determine whether it goes this way or goes that way. It's got to be one concise mind You can listen to all the 9 ideas, but when it comes down to it, you have to make the final decision, or you make no decision, and you have a lukewarm record. So that was the first thing. We had to break up all this idea that everybody's producing the record. It's like, no, there's one producer. And then the other thing was, if it makes the hair bumps on your arms rise up, when you hear it back, then you know you have something. Don't go trying to fix it. Don't mess it up. Don't lose it. Learn how to preserve it. And another one is, if you add an instrument and it takes away from what you had and doesn't add to the song, take it out. So those basic principles, opened the whole gateway for Midnight Star. So from that day on, there was a whole different regime on that album of how the plan to get it done. No hanging out at the studio. If you're recording that day, then come in. If you're not, be home writing. So it's, let's get this thing done. And then so we began to craft it, song after song after song. The funniest part was Dick Griffey said, let me hear what you guys are working on this time. Let me kind of help pick some of the songs, if you don't mind. So we tried it our way. So we sent Dick some songs. We sent Dick about 5 songs. He said, see, I like that song. I like that one. That's pretty cool. Yeah, go ahead and start the album. I said, but Mr. Griffey, what about that Freakazoid song? You didn't say anything about that song. He said, of course you're going to cut that one. Mr. Ears himself, he knew that Freakazoid was the major song without even hearing it finished. So we're off to the races, and that's the song that broke down all the doors and all the barriers that was irresistible, that made a way for No Parking on the Dance Floor and an operator and electricity and all the other songs. That song.
Wow. So let me jump in here, Reggie, and just catch everybody up a little bit. There's a lot of ground covered, and we got to such a major landmark, really, in not only Midnight Star, but just music of the 80s and funk music and all that. 1983, when No Parking on the Dance Floor came out, I mean, people that were there maybe realized, but since then they might not realize the impact that record had. I mean, that record was, like you said, it was a hits throughout the whole thing. And you mentioned Quincy Jones, which is ironic, I think, because the giant record that year was Thriller by Michael Jackson, which of course he produced. And I think Midnight Star's record, was only rivaled really by Thriller that year in terms of, black radio and dance clubs and that, audience. It was an amazing record. It had not only Freakazoid and the title cut, but also Wet My Whistle and Slow Jam, Electricity. It had the ballad, it had the dance tracks, it had the sort of R&B pop flavor to it. You covered all the bases. And not only that, but it was also a big leap in terms of style, because there were elements on that record that you really didn't hear so much what preceded that. So, do you really credit that advice from Q with the sound itself progressing, or, how did that come about?
Just looking at what was going on at the time, it was hip hop was starting to slowly ease into the game. They call it rap music in the day, and then you had the funk was still, as your book says, it was still about being on the one. So so it became, okay, how can we do both of these? And then like you say, disco had rolled out, but techno was rolling in. People were using synthesizers, and I can remember the very first album. Michael Boddicker had a synthesizer. They took up a whole room. it was like the old computer. It was like all the patch bays and all that stuff. And then now they were getting smaller and more keyboard, more friendly. And so we bought new instruments and began to learn all these sounds. And the idea was strategic. It was like, okay, how can we take these synth sounds, this techno sound? Because we were the horn players, myself, Vincent, and Bill. But horns were not selling records like they were back in the Cool Gang days and the Confunction days and Cameo days. It was a new thing, so we had to get out in front of it. And I think some of the desperation of, okay, I need to write songs, and I can't just write them as if I'm a horn player, because Tough and some of those other songs, Hotspot and You're the Star. I mean, those were incredible horn songs. It was fun writing those arrangements and having other guys help with some of the Jerry. Well, no, we hadn't met Jerry Hay yet, but yeah. So it was time for a new thing, and it was time for us to put the horns down and to make sure that the rhythm was right. So that meant studying it and getting out of the way of yourself and getting back on the one, learning just the strategic things of what is necessary, where the breaths are, where is the funk really at, and then accomplishing that, but accomplishing it in a way that nobody had ever done. There had been techno records, there had been funk records, but there's never been one that had blended it all together and then added melody to it. So techno records didn't necessarily have melody, and the hip hop records, certainly didn't necessarily have melody. So that's what made it really killer, was that we brought melody to funky techno tracks.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about impact, and at that time I was a club and mobile disc jockey, and I was very grateful because, I mean, those were always guaranteed to pack the dance floor, no parking, and especially Freakazoid. It was a phenomenon. So thank you for that as a DJ.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
You followed up that album with Planetary Invasion, which was another success. It had Operator. You really kept that vibe going. And then you did one more record with the band, which was Headlines in 1986, I think, and you had another hit with that track. But talk to me about what happened, that led you to part ways with Midnight Star as an entity and strike out on your own in the late 1980s and produce other acts.
Well, probably some of the producing the other acts probably had a lot to do with it. We produced the Whispers, Climax. We had founded the deal with LA and Babyface, and did their album Body Talk, another hit. And of course, Climax was Meeting in the Ladies' Room. Whispers was Contagious and Some Kind of Lover. So it was a lot of one idea was to build not only a band but a super production company that can last forever and ever. Bands can tend to come and go, but you got 9 people who develop a ton of music. I mean, we had the ability to develop an extreme amount of music. So a lot of times directions can sort of part ways, and that, as well as growth time. It's just time to grow to another level, depending on what your personal goals are. I always knew that I wanted to work with many acts. Not just Midnight Star. Not just be a band for the sake of being a band. I mean, which is a great thing. But I never would have written Casanova, or never would have worked with Teddy Pendergrass or Natalie Cole or Gladys Knight or Patti LaBelle, and just all the people that came later. So that's always been a joy. Also to write other types of music, not just do funk or techno funk, but to do just various types of music, pop, and even if it's classical or gospel, to be able to do everything that God gave you to do in the confines of a group can sometimes be hard, or it may even seem unfair to others, because it's, if you have everybody's one for all and all for one in the Three Musketeers situation, sometimes you have to be a renegade a little bit and do your own thing. So many things I wanted to do is on the music side, on the business side, building record companies and building publishing companies and the whole gamut, So my scope was very, very broad, and it was easier for me to leave and break away than to dismantle the group or rebuild the group or any of those kind of things. Those are my brothers and sisters. So it was just easy for me to say, I think I'm going to go and pursue all these other things that I would like to do, as well as even sing. In Midnight Star, I sung some things in the earlier years, but I let that part of my early destiny sort of go, because we had great singers in Bo and Belinda and Melvin, and you don't really, three is a lot. You don't need four or five lead singers. So I always knew that I wanted to sing, and I wanted to do more things like that as well. So the solo and the duo career just afforded all those beautiful opportunities. I was working on this one song, and I asked God, I said, God, what should I do? And the room got really, really silent, and he yelled in this soundful voice. He said, do whatever you want to do. And so I've been trying to do that. That's not even easy. I've written theatrical plays. I'm working on several books. I have all kind of treatments for different movies and cartoons and all this stuff. Is like, and now I'm doing this great finance business to help other artists feed and fulfill their dreams. So, what an amazing life!
Yeah, quite a renaissance man, Reggie. I want to ask you like two more questions, hopefully, if you bear with me here. So one is that the show is called Truth and Rhythm. And so I like to ask, for artists such as yourself, what does that concept mean to you? And when you do music, when you create, how do you find truth in creating?
Oh, that's kind of what we search for. We used to always say, you can't fake the funk, and that means you can't just go half-heartedly, at it, and especially with cats like myself, and I learned a lot from them, of course. It really, it's really serious. It's kind of always when I'm trying to train or teach a drummer or to play music the way we feel it. It's I use the Mike Tyson example a lot of times. I say when Mike Tyson says I'm hitting with bad intentions, meaning that every time he punches, he's trying to hurt something. So it's you're not just throwing a jab like many other bosses. And that's the way we get into it. That it also, when you strip it all down, then it comes back to the song. So as a songwriter myself, I try to learn early that if you can't hear it with just a piano and a voice or a guitar and a voice or no instrument at all, then you may not be working on the truth of it. Some people can look for the easy rhyme, and the lyrics become trite and corny. Some people can try to put a hot track behind a bad song, and it's still a bad song. So it's getting to the real truth of it. Like Quincy says, does it make the hair on your arm stand up? Do you feel something? Does it make you want to cry? Does it make you want to laugh? Did it educate you? It's got to move the needle in some kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Well, before I shut this down, Reggie, I wanted to allow you to say a little bit more about what you're doing nowadays with helping other artists, and you're doing other things musically as well. What's at the front burner right now for you?
The front burner on the business side is helping artists to fund their projects through their own annuities that they've created over the years. It happened to be in my career where I was receiving royalties, and royalties come at a 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even 1 year basis, and you're always waiting for that check. And there was a time when you could get an advance here from one of those payors, and then that was cut out a lot because, quite frankly, it was probably abused a lot, and companies lost a lot of money, or a lot of money was left hanging out there. So, not being able to fund myself forced me to look at other options, and going down the road, I was able to find some funding and find different ways of doing it, using the income stream itself as an annuity that continues to make money. So after co-founding the first online platform base of doing that, I eventually partnered with my new partners at Sound Royalties. And upon meeting CEO and founder Alex Heike, we began to build this thing to an incredible level and in such a short, fantastic time period. But the general idea is that a person's receiving royalties, they have to wait for that money. And it only is what it is when it comes in. But we're able to look at that, analyze it, and then advance out from that. We can advance out a year, or we can advance out up to 5 or 6 years, meaning that that person can pull more money today and take care of the real needs that they have, whether it's building a new studio out, whether it's a down payment for a house, whether it's buying their own publishing back or paying off some previous debts or loans. And these are advances. They're not loans, and that person's not selling anything, so they preserve their rights. They don't give up their copyrights in perpetuity. It's just they're being monetized for the time period that the deal is set for, and they can still see their income stream, to see what's still coming through, which is awesome. We don't advance 100%. We only take a portion so that they can get the overflow when they get a big check. They see that money, and they're not strapped, with their income ceasing to exist, because we take a part to pay back the advance, and they get the overflow. So that's another credible factor. We're just really excited about it, and we're backed by 18 billion under assets and management. We write deals on our own balance sheet, meaning that we have the money to make this happen. We have the job of trying to invest $100 million into the industry this year. So that's what my challenge is. So I say, please ask for Reggie when you call in the Sound Royalties, because we want to make it happen for as many cats as we can. And we're just letting everybody know that this new option is available. It's safe, it's protected, and you get as much money as you possibly can now to do what you need to do. And what a treat! We've helped bring babies into life here, where the person needed the money for the doctor's bill. We've helped people build studios. It's just down payment for a house. Like as I was saying earlier, it's just so great to be a part of that, and that allows me to even make more music. So on my music side, I continue to write and continue to make music, and continue to look ways to change and build the industry and prepare this new model. As I said earlier, I just got elected to the board of directors for the California Copyright Conference. We're meeting next week at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'd love to be on that board, going to the Songwriters Hall of Fame and watch Babyface and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis get inducted, and get to the political side of that. A member of NARAS, a member of the American Independent Music Publishers Association. So I'm a member of the Society of Composers and Lyricists. So as you say, I'm having a blast.
That is incredible, Reggie. I mean, just to be able to give back like that, it's got to feel fantastic. And what an amazing career you've had in the music industry, and you continue to have. Just thank you so much for sharing it with myself and with the listeners and viewers today. Very grateful.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, and we'll do a part 2 whenever you need to. We didn't get into the the Casanovas and the jump starts and the joys, and we'll finish up on that good stuff.
Yeah, we didn't get into I Want to Be Rich and all that good stuff, but it is time to wrap up.
Well, we have to close with I Want to Be Rich. So after, as I was saying, I always wanted to do more singing. So after leaving Midnight Star, my brother and I, we did a bunch of production projects, but we always knew we were artists at heart. So we had to kind of like do both. We had to feed both sides of the beast, so to speak. And so the artist side opportunity came back once again. Dick Griffey, you guys want to do an album on Calloway? It's like, it's great, So the song I Want to Be Rich was actually conceived in the days that we were not rich at all. And in fact, that we were actually working on the Park on the Dancefloor album, and we were so focused and so into what we had to do. It was. I mean, I broke into tears during that period to try to see that we really had to make it then and not later. But Melvin was in the mirror singing this hook, I Want to Be Rich. I said, that's a song. But you know what? It's not a song for No Parking on the Dance Floor. It's not a song for right now. So many years later, I finished writing that song. Myself, Vincent, Belinda, Melvin, and what a song it came out to be. Was so proud. #2 pop record, and lives on today. They just performed it on Jimmy Fallon's show just a few nights ago. Kurt Cobain just did it on a rap song where he reinterpolated it. So music lives forever when it's right.
Phenomenal. Thanks, Reggie.
All
Time to
right.
wrap up this edition of Truth and Rhythm. A huge thanks again to my special guest, Mr. Reggie Calloway. Thank you so much, Reggie. Again, amazing experiences and terrific music. Also, sincere thank you to viewers and listeners. Be sure to look out for upcoming Truth and Rhythm episodes and catch up with previous installments at funkandstuff.net and on YouTube, iTunes, and other leading podcast providers. If you're an artist or a music industry figure interested in being a guest on this program, or a fan wanting to see a particular person interviewed, send me an email and let's see if we can make it happen. Until next time, on behalf of Reggie Calloway, this is Scott Goldfine saying,
With a blast stop.
always keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.